Small enough so that if you guys want to stop me and ask a question or make a comment or criticize or whatever, just go ahead. Right? How many have seen me before? Oh, quite a few? Okay. I'm an amateur pastor. I do have the credentials, so I can do a wedding occasionally. But I actually work for a living too. And I lead a couple of small groups, home church type groups. I've been coming now for a few years doing this February Valentine's Day talk, and it cracks me up every time because I'm not, say one word to describe you. They were playing this little game back there, right? Nobody would pick the word love as the first word to describe me. Anyway, so a couple months ago it started percolating, and a couple of weeks ago I just started getting serious about thinking about it. And I've developed a relationship with God over the years, and I know that it's not uncommon that I can ask him a question and start debating stuff with him, and he'll actually give me some things. And so I believe he's done that, specifically about this topic, specifically for this night. I wouldn't call it prophecy or anything like that. It's just like thinking things through. Come, let us reason together, he says in the scripture, right? So, there's two great commandments, which are, all right, love God. And why would we do that? Why would we love God? Why?
He's the creator of the universe and the one who loves us unconditionally.
Yeah, let's get a little more personal. Who do you make?
Everything?
Everything, yeah, and more personally, you. He made you. This is a pretty important factor of who you are and what you're about. And he made you for a purpose. And that purpose wasn't to accomplish great things. I know that's a lot of what the propaganda that comes at you. Mm-hmm. But he made you to love him and for him to love someone. And this is the primary purpose for why he made you. There's a lot of distraction along the way, and we get bored along the way, and so we look for a lot of distractions, a lot of other things. But at the base, at the core of everything is you come from him, you're going back to him, and there's actually an opportunity to live with and in him now. And actually, you have a kind of slow motion conversation. I ask him a question, a year later I start to understand something, so it can be it's different. Not a straight human relationship. Anyway, so God, what's this about? So first commandment, love God. Second commandment, second big commandment, love others. Love others. Now, how would that make sense? Why is that a natural outflow of the first one? There's a very simple, logical reason.
Because by loving his creation, you love him.
Yes, specifically the person, the neighbor, the person near you, right? He made that person too. And so that other person is also the highest thing around you. The most important item around you is the other person who's near you. And that's just the way it is from his point of view. Everything else is decoration. Okay? That's my take on this, right? So, I started asking him, the first thing that kind of came as, I don't know if it was an answer or not, but I read an article about somebody who started out 25 years ago in love, right? Today's the in love day, right? You fall in love. Well, they apparently fell in love. And they proceeded to have 4 kids. He worked his butt off, and he became the richest man on earth. $140 billion. You know who I mean?
Jeff Bezos?
Gotcha. Bezos. And guess what's happening now? Do you know what's happening now? Well, he fell out of love. See, that's the problem with love. Anything you could fall into, you could fall out of it. It's almost logical with that. Okay? So they have fallen out of love. It happened some time ago. And of course, in the meantime, he met someone else. She's married too. They were in love, and now they're not. And they're breaking up those two marriages, and now they're going to get together. And of course, he will no longer be the richest man on earth because Washington State has community property laws, and so she's going to get half. So this is great. And I think this is romantic love. This is it, you know. He worked his butt off, and he made a lot of money, and now he's got a destroyed marriage. And you know what it says in Malachi about marriage? You know what God's opinion of divorce is? What does he say? He says a very serious, straightforward, clear answer. I something divorce. Hate. I hate divorce. Now, why would that be? Why would he hate divorce? How does the Bible begin? Two people, and something happens. A marriage. There was no civil law at the time, so they didn't have to have a ceremony. But they were married. Now, at the end of the Bible, what happens? The very end. What happens at the very end? Another marriage. You know this? You know Revelation? The marriage supper of the Lamb. You know why we're here, right? You know why believers are on the earth? We're getting prepped. We're getting ready to become the bride of Christ. Now, we are a bride of Christ in the way the Jews used to think about it. You'd be married, but you weren't married. So that's where we are right now. We're betrothed, right? All right, so I just thought I'd mention that thing about Jeff being so rich because, you know, I'm really rich. I dare say I'm richer than he is. Remember George Bailey at the end of the movie? How rich was he?
Richest man in the world.
He had friends. He had people, right? I got a lot of good people in my life. Anyway, you know how much $140 billion is? You know, I was trying to think, how can you put that in scale? Now, he worked really hard at that. His family worked really hard at that. And they got it. They achieved it. That's a great accomplishment, isn't it? No, it's not. It's a great waste of a life. That's my opinion. Okay? No, I figured, how many millions would I need to be comfortable? 1? No. 10? Maybe 50. I could be pretty comfortable on 50 million. I could waste some, I could give some away, I could be charitable, I could 50 million to cover it. I thought, okay, so how many times 50 million go into 140 billion?
A lot.
2,800 times. I thought, he could give away $50 million to 2,800 people. That's an amazing amount of money. You know what that money is worth right now in the eyes of God in his life? Remember what God said about divorce? I hate divorce. And he warned us about money. He didn't say he loved money. He didn't say he didn't care about money. Use it to make friends. That's what it said. Anyway, okay. So who's rich? How rich are you? You got anything to be thankful for? If you started making a list, if we all started playing a different kind of game, we each started writing down things to be thankful for, how long could we go on tonight? What if I helped a little and I said, well, let's break it down into categories. Air. You glad you got air? How about existence? You glad for existence? I mean, this is pretty high level stuff. But then you can break it down to, are you glad that the United States of America, specifically this area, was at peace when you were born? Are you glad you're not a child soldier? There's a whole, I mean, we could come up with 1,000 things in no time at all. This is a worthy endeavor because then you will realize you're rich. You know, all of that was given to you by him, right? It's gifts. They're all gifts. How much did you do for any of that? Yeah, you guys are all young. You haven't done hardly anything yet. You certainly didn't earn any of the stuff that you've inherited from your area, from the world, from the people in your lives. You just inherited it. It's a great thing. It's the best way. I mean, aren't you glad you live here? You may hate Trump. You may hate Pelosi. You're glad you live here, if you think about it, you know? Okay. So we're rich. We are all rich here. And we need to be thankful to him for what he's given us already, right? And so, I started wondering, I went from there to, why don't I love God more? Has this ever crossed your thoughts? Right? A lot of what you guys are talking about up here was interesting because, it started out with the love of God at the end of the little video. Oh, the love of God, something like that. And then he started talking about loving others and going out and doing things with them. Well, some of you might have to actually try to do those things. What if you just absolutely knew the love of God down deep in your guts? Would it be any work at all to tell your neighbor that God loved him or God? It just wouldn't be. Because it'd be coming out like a fountain, like river of living water, like the scripture says. So I started thinking, why don't I have more of that natural flow of love for other people? So my wife lets me know that we're invited to a party. My first thought is a groan. I like the woods, I like the quiet, I like the lack of confusion out there in nature and stuff. People are so confusing. People are so complicated. There's so much going on. People hardly ever say what they're thinking. Sometimes they say it a little bit with their faces and their body, but almost never with their mouth. It's a crazy place we live here. And there's so much of it going on here, all in these little universes inside your craniums, It's always troubled, the complexity. When you're over there with the woods, the tree's not thinking about anything. The rocks aren't thinking. They're just swaying and reacting. And I look at that and I go, oh, yeah, that's what I want to do. And anyway, but God has told me that I'm supposed to love people. And so I look at myself, and he says, you're supposed to love me too. I look at myself and says, why do I see coldness? Why do I see knowledge? Knowledge puffs up, love edifies. That's one of the things people would say about me. He knows a lot of stuff. He's good at figuring stuff out. You think that gets much credit with God? It's good, but it ain't the best by any means. So God, why don't I love you more? So that led me to a passage. I'm going to read it. I spent 12 minutes. I am a Bible teacher by avocation, not a preacher. So whenever I have to do a theme, it's a little tricky for me. This is in the book of Luke, chapter 7. It starts at verse 36. Jesus it's early in the book. People don't hate him too much yet. The Pharisees are still kind of, maybe he's okay, I don't know, I can't tell. He says some suspicious things. And so he's been doing miracles and stuff, and some people think he might have actually done this particular Pharisee some good in some way, because the Pharisee invites him home for dinner. And so it says, one of the Pharisees invited him to eat with him. He entered into the Pharisee's house, sat at the table. Behold, a woman of the city, who was a sinner, we'll get to that in a word in a minute. When she knew that he was reclining in the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of ointment. Now, sinner in that situation, they're stratified socially. Women aren't very high on that ladder. But she was even lower because she had been doing something of a criminal behavior. Could have been prostitution. It was some kind of living by some kind of criminal activity. And it was well known, right? And so she gets herself an alabaster jar of ointment. Now, this is the way these people actually stored their wealth. If you made a lot of money and you didn't know what to do with it, you'd go out and buy some ointment like this that was made out of nard. It comes from India up in the Himalayas. And you'd get a fancy alabaster jar, carved, right, and it'd be sealed. And you could put like 300 denarii in this thing, in terms of oil, scented oil. Very, very expensive. Standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears, and she wiped them with her hair, with the hair of her head, kissed his feet, and anointed them with ointment. Now these people, dinner there is different than here. They have a low table, Oriental style, or East style, a low table like that, which would be on. Everyone would be kind of splayed out like spokes of a wheel. That scene that Da Vinci painted with all the guys on the one side of the table, yes, that's Buck. They were reclining on pillows up on one arm, laying on their left side. This is custom, right? And their feet were out from the table. And so she came in with servants or something, snuck in, and she had this thing with her, and she's going to do Jesus a good turn. Now, why do you think that's true? Why do you think she's going to do Jesus a good turn? She has perceived some good from him into her. So that has to be some kind of precondition of this event. Something about what Jesus said or did healed her mother, healed her, did something for a child, something she saw. The fact that he was kind to her when he knew that she was bad, whatever it was, something set this stage that made her seek Jesus to say thank you. That's what this is, right? And so she gets this plan. I'm going to take this. Now that jar probably came from the prophets of her criminal activity, so that's kind of weird. But okay, now when the Pharisee, religious man upstanding in the community, he's there, he's at the top, right? When he saw this, he said to himself, "This man, if he were a prophet, would have perceived who and what kind of woman this is who touches him, that she is a sinner." Why would that be bad that a sinner was touching him like this? It would make him ceremonially unclean. And then he would have to do some backflips in order to get back in good standing with the synagogue or the temple in order to participate in the services, right? The ceremonial uncleanness thing comes from 2,000 years of the law, and then the Pharisees building this religious edifice upon all that stuff. And so this is what he's thinking. And so Jesus says to him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." Simon says, "Teacher, say on." So he opens the door. So Jesus tells him a parable. A certain lender had two debtors. The one owed 500 denarii. That's about almost 2 years' wages. So a common laborer, would work 10, 12 hours a day. A lot of money. At minimum wage, 30, 40, 50 grand, something like that. I forget what it is. And the other one only owed 50 denarii, month and a half. And so, for 2 months. Simon, he says to him, when they couldn't pay, he forgave them both. Which of them will love him the most? So he forgives the one man for 50 grand, forgives the other man for 5 grand. Which one's going to love Jesus the most? It's a pretty straightforward math problem, right? Which of them will love him the most? And so that's what got me thinking. Love him the most. Apparently different people love at different degrees. We knew this. Which one loves the master, the forgiver, the most? Right? So I'm getting closer to Jesus and what's going on. Simon says, he, I suppose, who had forgiven the most. And he says, you have judged correctly. Turning to the woman, he said to Simon, do you see this woman? I entered your house, and you gave me no water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with the hair of her head. This is a desert climate. They don't have a lot of washing facilities around. If you come to a dinner party, it's customary to offer your guests water to wash their feet. Now, sometimes, if you're particularly wealthy, you would actually have a servant who would wash their feet. But you would at least give some water, okay? And I tried to find an equivalent looking around to our society for this, and I just couldn't really come up with anything. People suggested you wash the tires on their car, you volunteered to scrub their toilets. They had a lot of funny things. Like, none of them really come to the point because foot washing is like really personal. And as I was thinking about this today, it was at lunch, and I had my legs crossed, like that, and one foot was up in the air. And I'd like you to take a look at your foot right now. Please do this. Look at your own foot. Put it in a place where you can actually see it. And I started thinking about another foot washing. They got connected. Take a look at your own foot.
I was
now,
laughing at
everybody look at their foot. And at that moment, when I looked down at my foot, I thought, if Jesus were standing here, he'd wash that thing. And it just kind of shocked me. If Jesus was standing here right now in front of you, he would wash that. Now that's a peculiar thing. He would touch it. He would touch his hand to your foot's skin. Very personal. There's no way you're going to forget that. In their society, it would have been kind of routine. So they might be able to forget it. Sure wouldn't be in ours. It really happened. Like, who do you respect more than anyone else in the world living? Do you, each of you have a person that you have some respect for? I struggle with that. You're thinking of somebody, okay? What if that person asked you to step out, took you in a little room and washed your feet? Do you feel how odd it would feel? How strange that would feel? It doesn't lift you up, specializing. It makes you feel more humble. It's an odd thing, and that's why Peter said, you can't wash your feet. Remember that? It was a strange thing that Peter said. And this woman, she washed his feet with her tears. In order to enjoy dinner, you wanted to have your feet cleaned, because all day long, dirt and crud, you're hot, cool you off, right? So, next one. You gave me no kiss. It was customary in those days to say, hello, welcome to my home. Welcome to my home, I'm glad to have you here. You just show some sign of affection, no matter how small. He invited him for dinner. He was impressed with him in some manner. He should have at least done something to recognize it. He didn't. And just so Jesus is contrasting that to what he did. So it makes it pretty stark. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with ointment. Now, you're all too young, but do you know the word Brill cream? A little dabble, do you? There used to be signs on the road, Brill cream signs. When I was a young boy, you oiled your hair. This was the 50s, right? It was the prior century, I know. It's way further back than you can imagine, but it's a long time ago. The 50s. And you would oil your hair. You'd have your little bottle, and you'd drip a little on your hand, had a special thing, so only a couple drops would come out. You might have seen it in movies. You do this, and you rub it in real good, and then you'd comb it out, and it'd stay there. It'd stay where you put it. Today, they call this product. You get product. It works better. It doesn't look oily. So you can imagine that in their day, nobody's taking showers here, right? There's a lot of odors going around. You're at a party. You don't want to be thinking about the odors. Right? So they would use scented oils in their hair as a balm and as partly a deodorant. So these were customary things. This was just normal behavior for them. And this guy didn't do it. No water, no congratulations, no welcome, no oil. She, on the other hand, something happened to her so that she had this plan. She wasn't even saying a word. She doesn't say a word to Jesus. And something has changed inside her, though. She sees him in some way that has caused her paradigm about this human man to be completely whacked out of shape. Completely different than it had been. And it changes her life. It changes her life. Her life becomes about something else now, about love. And her immediate response is she has to show love back. So what was the secret ingredient that made her know absolutely that Jesus loved her and the depth to which he loved her? What was the secret? What had happened? He tells us in the parable, in card. What?
He's forgiven.
She was forgiven much. Much. Now, was Simon forgiven a little? He was the 50. She was the 500. Jesus is contrasting these two people and how they respond to him. One is kind of ho-hum about it all, kind of academic. I'll have him forgive me. The other one is like, my life before this is like it didn't happen. Now a new thing has happened, and I am connected to this being. I don't even know who he is or what he is. He hasn't made it very clear yet, but there's something about Jesus. And you know, Jesus is pretty much universally respected across the board. It's very difficult to find even atheists, even neo-atheists today, Dawkins and Harris and all those guys, to say, they won't say anything bad about Jesus because they can't find anything. You know the Monty Python guys? They do the Life of Brian and all that stuff. They're making fun. They got guys on crosses singing. I mean, it's just crazy. They're crazy people, right? And funny. I saw Palin and Cleese in an interview, and they were saying, the interviewer said, "Why didn't you ever do the Bible?" And he says, "Well, we thought of it." And so we started looking at the Gospels about Jesus' life, and quite frankly, we just couldn't find anything to do it to. And he's just too good a guy. So, I mean, there's this kind of, now some people will dispute his existence. That's what the atheists will do. But they don't dispute his quality of character. And, you know, he's alive today. He's alive today. I can ask him questions and he will give me answers. Now, has Jesus given me something to tell you guys tonight? What do you think? I think so. Some of you will think so. Some of you will think I'm nuts. That's the way it goes, isn't it? If we were in that day, somebody would take you out and try to get me crucified, you know. Times change. Techniques change. Anyways, so what are we doing here? 7:39. Ooh, going kind of long. Anyway, he says to her, her sins who are many are forgiven. And implying your sins who are few, the jury's out. We don't know. So, the secret of loving Jesus more is seeing your need. It's seeing that you're a sinner. Now, like I had you look at your feet, I would take your mind's eye right now and point it at every crappy, rotten thing you've ever done. And everybody's done it. Could you do that for a moment? Just look at the crap you've done in your life. Everybody you've hurt, every funny story you told, every little lie, every little cheat. Everyone's got a long list. Starts to be accountable at 8, 12, something like that. You guys have been working on it for a good long time. I got a longer one. If you see that list well, if you can hold that in front of yourself for a couple of minutes, it's really hard to do. It's one of the hardest things there is to look at. Remember it says you go up to the mirror, the law, you look at it, you walk away, and you forget. That's changing. Try to not forget what a crappy person you are for a minute. Just 1 minute. And if you do, then you turn to Jesus and go, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. I don't have to live by that crap. I don't have to live according to the accumulation of my wrongs. I can live by your life in me, changing my paradigms, changing me, changing everything about my future." So, it'll be my word to experiment with that once in a while. The reason I don't see Jesus very well is because I undervalue my sin. And I overvalue my strengths. It's called pride. So a balanced view sees both, right? Questions? Maybe not. When I come in with a steamroller, people generally don't have questions. So,
I have a couple questions.
Yes?
I thought this was basketball tryouts.
Very good, very good.
It's not basketball tryouts.
This
No.
is not. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Thanks for coming.
I wouldn't exactly call that a good question, but it was a funny one. Any real questions? Any real questions?
You're telling us like deadpanning, like it was a joke.
Probably should make it should take more than you to know. Anyway, thank you very much for giving me a chance to talk. Thank you for patience because I went a little long, and I hope the word sticks in you.